Okay, Jono, drum roll. We are back. I am Naran McClung, the head of the Azure business for Macquarie Cloud Services. Who are you?
I'm Jono and I look after private cloud for Macquarie Cloud Services.
Very good. Lovely to have you back, Jono. This is, of course, another episode of the Cloud Reset podcast. But before we get into any of that and before we talk about our guests, which are both amazing people in their own right, what on earth have we been up to?
What have we been up to? Well, I reckon for the last 3 or 4 months, we've been desperately trying to avoid the Q4 madness unsuccessfully.
Is this the hockey stick? Is that what you're referring to?
It's upon us. For some reason, everybody wants to get everything done in Q4 of the Australian financial year.
Right.
I'm not complaining.
Now, hang on a minute, Jono. This doesn't seem to work because the horrible things are going on in the US. It's affecting the stock market here in Australia. Surely that must have had an impact on market confidence.
Well, look, depending on who you talk to, it's possible, but certainly not in our world.
I've seen no sign of it.
No sign of slowing down. Things are getting crazy.
Crazy, absolutely. So we both know we're having fun with this clearly, but businesses are on the move. We've got huge enterprises that are moving out of data centers. We've got equally big enterprises moving out of AWS. I talk about that a lot for my own ill-gotten purposes, but it happens to be true. All of these things are happening at once. Why do they all seem to land in Q4 of the financial year?
Well, I think, there's a little bit of pre-Easter madness and people want to get some stuff done before they go on holidays.
Right.
I think Australians love a good holiday.
Yep.
And then as we head into May and June, this has been true, for at least the last 2 or 3 years. People putting things on hold and then a bit of a panic.
It's never going to be any different, is it?
No, I don't think so.
It's never going to be any different at all. We always like things to be smooth and linear throughout the financial year. It's just not the case.
No, but look, long may it continue. Let's get crazy. I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, indeed. Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, here we are. We've got 2 special guests, both of which very close to me and my own origin story in working for Macquarie Cloud Services. First of which, we have a lady who originally was the Chief Partner Officer for Microsoft when I first met her. She's now the Corporate VP for SMB Asia at Microsoft. Her name is Rachel Bondi. Equally, we have our boss, Jono, the Group Executive for Cloud Services, James Mystakidis. Welcome, Rachel. Welcome, James, to the podcast.
It's great. It's a high bar having your boss on the podcast.
No pressure at all.
Talk us through, how did you guys meet?
I remember it like it was yesterday, but I think it was 6 years ago. We had a business meeting because Macquarie wanted to expand into cloud technology, and I was just new in role. And I was like, wow, who's this partner who wants to meet with me and talk about growth of our business? How can you say no to that? So I remember the first meeting, we were in the city. It was such a well thought through business plan. It was really clear on what you wanted the partnership to be. And at the heart of all of it was all about mid-market and customers. So it was one of those moments you kind of look around and say, this is just too good to be true. And that was 6 years ago.
Wow.
And the partnership has just gone from strength to strength, because one thing I've really appreciated about Macquarie is when you say you do something, you do it and you deliver it with such excellence. And every year after year, you've raised the bar on what we can do together. I'm really keen for you to expand into Asia, and I know it's been something we've been talking about, but I also know that's what makes you so great, is that you stick to your core. And maybe the last thing I'll say is, first of all, this started around the practice of Azure.
Yes.
But it became so much more than that. And it's actually where it goes from here is probably the most exciting part. So I know you've done a lot more in security. I know you're now looking at data and fabric, and who knows where this will go when we think about AI in the future. But no, I remember that day so well 6 years ago, and I'm so thankful for the work that we've done together. And I think the next 6 years are really going to probably be the biggest of all of them.
Thank you.
You're right. We have a track record, a process around how we innovate. We normally travel abroad and we go to regions where we don't compete. And we talk to companies just like us. Yep. And we do that normally on an annual basis. And I remember 2017, 2018, We had done 2 study trips to the UK, US with the question of, this public cloud thing, is it for us? Yeah. What are the tricks? What are the traps? Who do you partner with? What's the right strategy? How do you make money? How do you offer great service? And we came from that convinced that we needed to work with Microsoft, really convinced that, in fact, they were the only partner we could work with. Lots of reasons for that. If we think of the segment that we target, mid-market, they're mostly Microsoft customers. And our view was Microsoft is the only hyperscaler that's partner first. Yeah. And they have decades of working with other businesses to service their base. So I think they were the 2 reasons. We knew that we needed to then start to open dialogue. And I think we were lucky that we met you, because I'm sure, there's been lots of partners that have come before promising big things and all this hyper growth, and, it doesn't turn up. So our view was like, we're actually really competent. We're really good at what we do, but how do we not be the 1,001st partner that turns up promising things? And I think I recognized that you had the insight, you asked the right questions. I think you triggered on our obsession for customers and Net Promoter Score journey. And I was like, okay, here's someone who actually gets how we're different, why we would make a difference, and why we're going to have success together. So that was that was my story. It's
a great story. And look, can I tell you, being hired to lead the Azure practice some 6 years ago and inheriting, we talked about study trips. I think that understates the effort that you put into it. It's such a privilege to inherit all that work. I mean, it was 2 years of study trips to America and to the UK. I think 40-something odd vendors that you met with. And it was an astonishing amount of information that I received. I've never had anything like that. And I'll probably never have anything like it again as well. It's been incredible. Yeah,
look, I think it's a good journey. That's really how we innovate. You know that now, Naran, at Macquarie, we do it on an annual basis. We go to markets that we don't compete with. We talk to people who are just like us. We share them the insights about what we're good at. We share them our Net Promoter Score journey, our focus on people and culture. And then in exchange, they share with us their insights about what they're doing. Sometimes the markets are ahead of us. Sometimes they're where we're at. So it's a great opportunity to look into the future, sometimes bring those learnings back into this market.
I think when people are doing a good job, they're proud of it. They like to talk about it and share. So as long as you're non-competitive, I think we're all proud of what we do, right?
Yeah.
It's a great way to learn. Rachel, we've been obviously doing a series recently on this podcast around embracing new technology trends. The one we're all talking about is AI. But if we go back to when I think Macquarie commenced the Microsoft Azure partnership, we're going back 6 years now, that was kind of a new trend as well. You've been going for a couple of years, but hyperscale adoption, certainly in Australia, was at the beginning, and there was a real wave, and it feels a little bit, you can draw some parallels to adopting new technology trends. What stood out to you when you engage with Macquarie around Macquarie's view of how to get on board with a new trend? What stood out to you as important for that to be successful?
I think the thing that I noticed with Macquarie right from the onset when we were talking about Azure is this concept that you could bring your expertise and experience to other customers. And that for the market that you serve, and you serve so many different industries and you serve many different customers, a variety of different sizes, you wanted to instill confidence with them on what we call sort of repeatable IP, repeatable understanding, the best potential experience. And you have packaged it in a way that makes that migration to the cloud even more seamless for customers. So I think the combination again of you being really focused on Net Promoter Score, so customers ultimately saying this is how you've supported them on the journey, as well as bringing the experience that you have from many different customers to the practice, is what I think really, really stood out for you. And I must admit, what you did in year one is completely different to what you do now. The scale that you have now And I think that was another part of the journey, was that you wanted to make sure that you had a year 1 plan, a year 2 plan, and a year 3 plan. And you would only take on what made sense for you at that point in time. And I think for me, it goes back to that point. Customer feedback is absolutely paramount to how you do things.
Yep.
And then making sure that you're taking the best of your learnings to other parts of the business. But I don't know, James, if that was intentional or how it ended up being, but that was what struck me as how you took customers on their journey to cloud.
Well, yeah, James, I'd love to hear more from you on that around adopting new technology trends, because that's what our listeners are really interested in. But there's also another, a follow-on question that I'll prep you for, and that is, as a leader at Macquarie, a foreign new technology being Microsoft Azure, the change management around that, and how did you bring the rest of the business on the journey? So obviously you had a great plan, but execution is also really important as well. And I'd love to hear more on that.
Yeah, got it, Jono. I think something I'm deeply passionate about. I think your question for me touches on our purpose. Fundamentally, we believe that the mid-market business is overcharged and underserved. And that's not true for the enterprise or consumers. And in the enterprise, they're not overcharged and underserved. They have massive teams and procurement offices, and they can negotiate. In the consumer space, every service out there has 30 alternatives, from insurance, from internet, whatever you want, that's hotly contested. Mid-market are subscale. They don't have the people, they don't have the teams, and therefore they find it difficult to service themselves. So to Rachel's point, our business model is structured around how do we serve mid-market on a long-term and ongoing basis. We're not interested in short, quick projects. We're interested in long-term relationships that continue to serve them. And the burden is on us to drive value and ongoing value through the lifetime of the relationship with our customers. That's the burden we have.
Yep.
And we work every day to win the right to serve those customers.
I'd have to say that's one of the things that really struck me about Macquarie. I mean, you raised the NPS piece, that's super important, but the feedback goes into product development. I've never seen anything like it at Macquarie. I mean, our product managers produce 60, 70 pages of service description that manifests in automation and capability and product as we serve Azure customers and Microsoft security customers. And that commitment to product goes to not just attracting customers, to your point, James, it's about retaining them as well. And we have a real commitment to hanging on to a customer. A hard-fought customer won needs to be held on to. And I know every month, every week, we're absolutely committed to making sure that our customers feel like they're getting value. And it's funny, with NPS, if you get anything other than a promoter, it's like a red light goes off in our business, right? And everybody panics and like, what's going on here, right? And it's a good thing, right? And our customers know it too. They also know that they get attention as well. And typically it will be something that's important to talk about. So it's a massive part of our business, and that whole commitment to product still strikes me. It really does. I don't think I'll see anything like that other than what I've seen at Macquarie.
No, look, just to pick up on 2 points that James has said, is certainly the focus on mid-market. There are so many partners who tend to focus on like the largest of the large, and that's what makes Macquarie stand out, is this whole market where I talk to so many CIOs and CEOs, and I'm sure we'll talk about more advanced technologies coming shortly, but they want more support, and that's what Macquarie can provide them. And then you're absolutely right on the investment on product management or product marketing. I don't see many other companies in Australia doing it quite that way, and it's refreshing because that's how Microsoft works. We tend to work very closely with our engineering teams. We work and invest in product marketers ourselves to make sure that we're really articulating the business value that you get from the technology platform. And that's what I think makes this relationship work so well, is that you think like a technology company, and that just continues to deliver great value to the mid-market of Australia. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Oh, look, it's amazing. It's a privilege. It really is to be part of this business. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. I'll start welling up talking about that. But we are talking about waves here. And Jono, you raised the point 6 years ago, Azure was a different beast. And my God, there are so many different services now. The platform has evolved immeasurably. The focus on security and everything else has been incredible. It was a wave of itself, watching Azure evolve over that time. We are seeing a new wave now as it relates to machine learning and generative AI. And Jono, I know we've been speaking to our guests a lot about this in recent weeks, and there has been some consistency of insights coming through with that.
I think so. Yeah, a lot of consistency in terms of the people that we've been speaking to around how to adopt AI successfully and make a difference for their own business or for the customers or markets that they serve. And something that's sort of come through in both of your feedback around how do you adopt a new technology trend, how do you make it real in your business or for your customers? And I'm hearing a lot about linking it back to your purpose, right? And when we're speaking to other tech leaders talking about adoption of AI and, which things do we adopt and where do we focus and how do we get return on investment, I think they could do well to think back to, well, what is the purpose of our business and the market that we serve and how do we make a difference? One of the common themes that came out was having opinions based on lived experience with the technology, right? Actually getting your hands dirty with technology as business leaders when it comes to AI and having an informed opinion about what good looks like for your business. Do you have a point of view on this, Rachel, around
Jono, such
adoption?
A big topic.
It
such
is.
A big topic.
It's huge, and Microsoft's leading the way on this.
Yeah, look, it's a great topic. I remember when I first started in the industry and had the opportunity to, and I'm dating myself here a little bit, Jono, but when I was first using sort of Word and Excel, I was truly. It really amazed me. I have never quite felt the same as I did that time. The only time that has come close is when I start using ChatGPT as part of Microsoft services. The ability to have natural language responses and using prompts to help in any type of summarization, creation has been a game changer. So from the moment I started using the tool set, 2 and a bit years ago, available through sort of the Microsoft technology set, it has been an absolute game changer. I think for me, you cannot stop learning to begin with, and it has to start with leadership. I spend a lot of time myself talking to the team, trying to spend time with myself, just understanding and learning sort of the technologies. And I use it every single day. And as I sort of go back over years, it's completely changing the way in which I work and support the team as well. So what are we doing? Sort of, our organization, makes sure that the technology is available to everybody in the organization. I think that's job number one, is to make it broadly available. Now, I would certainly recommend in our organisation, we give it available in Copilot, available to everybody in the team. And we're also allowing the teams to create their own agents now. So through the use of our technology called Copilot Studio, people can create and build their own agents. And that has been something that I think is the next evolution and where we need to go to. So yes, people are using it as an assistant, which is what I started using it as, but now I'm using it to automate so many different business processes so that myself and the team are focused on the things that we really want to focus on and eliminate some of the business processes that we think are not as high value. So making the technology available to everybody in the organisation is so, so important. So that's sort of step number one. And I do want to get James's thoughts on this. I'll maybe tee him up with something. Before you can give people access to the tooling and the technology, you have to do it in a way that is secure and that the data is available. Now, the security piece is so, so important because you want to make sure that people can't search on data sets that they shouldn't be able to get access to. And then the data piece, that's an ongoing component because initially in some of the search results or some of the prompting results, it may not be exactly what you think it should be. And that's where you have to keep on giving feedback to the tech teams to make sure that they're incorporating the right data sets. So I think, again, giving access to everybody in the organisation to the tooling and then also ensuring that you have the right security and data protocols in place. It's so, so important as a business leader. But I know James is doing a lot of work too in this area. So I'll pass to James for his thoughts on this topic.
Well, firstly, I'd say I've seen AI, I think, fit broadly in two camps. Firstly, I'd say by no means do I see myself as an expert in this space. I'm learning along the way. I think the first way I would call it individual productivity. So there's been lots of tools like Copilot, ChatGPT that help individuals do things cheaper, better, faster, more efficiently, save time, and I think that's really good. And I've certainly been leaning into those tools. My observation is I'm surprised how much they have evolved and how complex they have become and how much value they deliver now compared to 1 or 2 years ago. The second thing I think is around organizational efficiency, and that's where I'm personally very interested in. How do we create significant efficiencies in our business that help us scale, frankly, to provide a better service to our customers? I'd say we have 3 projects within our business that have mature. We have one around our security operations center. We've built a whole Microsoft security practice on Sentinel with Microsoft. We have significant AI, machine learning, automation, blueprinting. We take in threat feeds, it's real-time analysis. And what does that mean for our customers? It's machines are now picking up and identifying threats and also activating responses without having to have our people involved. That then triggers our individuals to then look at what's happened. That means we can get to near real-time response, which was unheard of only a few years ago. The second area is around our hosting management center. We use it for ticket enrichment, for service management. But the project that I've been personally leading for the last year and a half is around customer insights. And this is how do we help our organization, our staff, better improve our engagement with our customers and create material efficiencies. And if you think of an account manager, they have, say, 50 customers, and at every customer they have 5 contacts. Well, how do they keep track of 250 people every day and their next action and their contract re-sign, and have they changed company, and when did I meet them last? That's a significant opportunity to drive efficiency, automation, and help the tools and the systems support and be the agent for our service managers. Now, what we discovered when we embarked upon that project, we had this idea some time ago, is we couldn't do it. We quickly figured out that we needed to run a data project to run an AI project. And my sense is that most organizations, particularly mid-market, I think enterprise are far more mature around their data and data sets. Mid-market, most of them aren't data-driven businesses. They don't have a data lake. They don't think about data governance. They don't think about security. They don't think about how much data to store, who's accessed the data. I think there's a lot of headache and learning ahead. And so we had to tackle that first, frankly. Now, one of the things that tickled my brain was, how can I use AI to look at data in a different way? Can I skip a data transformation project? So that's one of the technical challenges that we took on, and I think we've made a lot of progress there, by getting a copy of every one of our data sets into one lake, and then now it's there. How do we write custom agents that can understand each one of those data sets to curate and make better sense of that data that we can then serve up to other agents to answer questions? So that's a bit of the journey that we've been going on, and I think some of the challenges ahead talks to Rachel's point, which is, I think data platform, data management, data security is going to be a significant wave ahead. Many organizations are going to need help and support in that, and that's really the question we're tackling right now. How do we build a managed service around that to support our mid-market customers on that journey?
Yep. Yeah, I was just going to say, when things have a natural gravity, I love that in the industry. And Fabric for us, I mean, we've spoken about this a few times now, has that gravity. and we're being drawn to it, and our customers are embracing it, and they feel compelled, James, to address their data platform problems up front. They recognise that that's crucially important. I think data governance is a fascinating one, Rachel. You talked about the risks potentially of models exposing data that shouldn't, right? And so changes in that space represent cultural changes as well. And you change the way people work. We're all data domain custodians. We create documents. We have to think about how they're classified. Anytime you have to interrupt someone's flow and the way they work, it takes time. That's a real cultural change. And I think businesses are going through that right now. But Fabric itself has really exploded in our business. And I would say not just customer demand, it's piqued the interests of our engineers and our mad scientists. And you are one of those, James, with your Customer Insights project. And I say that affectionately. You had an aspiration to solve a problem. The technology was super interesting. We're evolving our own data platform story, but I love that you had an alternate strategy to address that with agents. And let's not understate it. There's like 20 different models in play with that solution. And so it's pretty elaborate. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to working with it as well. I know the account managers in our business are as well. So it's very transformational for us, and it's going to change behaviours in our business.
It's a really good point, because we have a similar agent that is available to our sort of account managers. And I think for me, and James mentioned it, is people want to be able to support customers more. There's not a great account executive out there that doesn't want to serve and provide additional value to their customers. But how do you do it at scale and with accuracy is where I think the big unlock is. So to me, it all comes down to, using AI to unlock human ambition, and that it's not to replace one or the other, but it's to really assist and to provide, more scale in how we serve our markets. So between the work that you're doing and I know we have a similar type of setup, and we've just rolled it out today, in fact, to all of our sales teams across the business in how we're working, is how do we continue to have this human and assistant through an agent sort of approach. And I can imagine that our account teams in the past will have multiple agents that they're having to manage. And that's a really, really exciting venture, but also one that's going to require a lot of change management from the leaders all the way through into the organisation.
It's one of the things that Michael Reid, he's the CEO for Megaport, suggested that perhaps a change in his leadership team was that there'd be leaders whose job it is to manage agents. You hire an individual who has agents underneath them that deliver outcomes, and that is their job.
Absolutely. Like, I would imagine that, your account executive in the future will have 4 or 5 different agents that they're having to manage.
Which is a good segue. So there's 2 stats. So firstly, apparently 47% of businesses in Australia don't feel like their data platform strategy has been realised. So that doesn't really surprise me that much, given the interest that we're seeing with Fabric. That's the first thing. Second thing is Adapt Research suggests that investments in Gen AI projects have now overtaken investments in security initiatives within organisations as well, which is interesting. I know the two go hand in hand.
They do.
So it's not a case of one or the other. So I guess my question would be, what advice do each of you have for businesses that are seeking to champion and adopt AI adoption within their own business, and how do they be mindful of those other investments? How do you tackle that?
Okay, I'll make a comment. I think I'm not surprised by the first stat. I think that the AI technology is ahead of where data platforms are at.
Right.
And I think that is the next biggest challenge ahead for businesses, to get their data in place, in shape, with the right security, with the right governance, with the right accessibility to create insights. I think the agents that we're working with today are very advanced, but have not as much data to work with.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be a very significant challenge. Now, here's the second problem with that. No one wins an award or ends up in the CIO magazine for getting their data platforms right.
Right.
And boards and businesses aren't willing to write and invest big checks to get data platforms right.
Okay.
And I think that's really a massive issue ahead. And I think CIOs and businesses that traditionally haven't been data focused are going to need to think about actually how they figure out what their investment in data is first, and then think about what AI outcomes that they're looking for. So I think that's a bit of an advice there for the CIOs ahead. Now, our view is, at least for mid-market, most of these customers are Microsoft customers. So get your data into Fabric.
Yes.
Get your data into OneLake. Establish purview. Establish the data governance. Establish the security. That is your very best place to start your data journey. At the very least, you'll end up with the bronze data medallion architecture.
Yep.
And from there, you can start to think about how you can get to silver and gold and what your drivers are.
Yep.
I think that's the advice that we're providing to our customers, and we want to help them on that journey.
Makes perfect sense. In fact, talking to our security analysts as well, I said to them, what would be the number one weakness that you see across all the customers that we manage? And the universal answer to that from all of them was data leakage prevention. They're just seeing real immaturities there, which goes to this marrying up of your data strategy and your security strategy. And so their suggestion would be, as you say, James, embrace products like Purview that can help with that, but also importantly help with the data governance story as well.
Look, I completely agree with what James has mentioned. I think the other thing I would ask folks to do, because Australia, many Australian companies have already invested in Microsoft 365. So once, and also, there's probably a stat out there that says how many people are already using AI tools that are not endorsed by the company.
Right.
So my recommendation to anybody that is using Microsoft 365, and in Australia it's the majority of our customers, is to enable Copilot Chat. It's going to use all of the data that is in your Office graph. It's going to be held within the tenant and has the right secure protocols. And it's available for most customers that have already made that commitment to Microsoft 365. So I think for me, different AI capabilities will unlock different things. What James talked about is certainly going to help unlock business processes, customer intelligence. But if you want to just make a first step into employee productivity and employee experience, leverage Copilot Chat as part of the Microsoft 365 and make sure that then, employees aren't using third-party tools that are not endorsed by your company.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing that a CIO doesn't want to get into trouble for, which is, using tools that could allow the company data to appear in the public domain.
You had an interesting take on this when we were chatting the other day. Slightly contentious, because I know Naran and I challenge you, but we said, okay, I don't know, we talk to a lot of mid-market companies and they go, Copilot's a bit expensive. Yeah, we're not sure. It feels like a bit in that camp that James spoke about, the assistant type category. And you were talking about ChatGPT, premium subscription, shadow IT. I think, and the comment that I took away was, well, what's an hour back of your time worth to you?
Oh,
at
look,
scale.
I think...
And pricing models for this stuff.
Exactly. Like, I think overall, I think this is a place where there is going to be, business model transformation, whether it be through how, you use search on, on browsers, all the way through to how you think about productivity in the future. But for me, it comes down to how much can this unlock in terms of productivity and employee experience? We've had some people say to us when they're attracting interns or, new recruits into the business, is that some people coming into organizations are saying, do you enable AI as part of your company? It used to be, do you have a PC? This was back when maybe James and I started working in the industry. Now it's like...
I love that she excluded us from that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just...
Because we're younger. We're younger somehow. Yeah, thank you for that.
That's okay. But now people are saying, do I get AI tools if I join your company? So for me, I think it's something that a lot of employees, it's an expectation. And what the value it pertains, it's, $1 a day savings, $5 a day. Like you don't know exactly at this point in time what is too much or too low.
And pricing models will continue to evolve.
Absolutely.
But what might it look like in the future?
Look, My personal opinion on this is, subscription models today have always been more one of per user per month over that sort of time frame. But maybe we move to a model that it's more outcome driven.
Yeah.
You're paying for, somebody to help you, manage your calendar, or somebody to book you, a holiday. It might actually be that you're paying for a flat service as part of that offering versus the per user per model approaches that we've had. So I think the way in which this will evolve into driving outcomes, I think that's the big thing, is that this technology will drive more personal and business outcomes. And I think how much and how people will monetize that will also change in the future.
And it's like it was a factor for us in the way we architect our own solutions, in that we know that some solutions can be token heavy, some can be token light. And we've been fascinated with just the ability to eke out an amazing outcome. And if I look at our SOC optimizer, our digital twin, we're servicing just on average, just in this one instance, let's say 100 customers. It costs us less than $500 a month for all of them to have a mean time to respond of like 7 minutes and a mean time to closure of under 3 minutes. That's an astonishing outcome for almost no money, because we get in, we get an outcome, and we get the hell out of there super quick. And so I think there's some artistry in that, certainly, Jono, for a managed service provider. How do you induce a really solid TCO for a generative AI project that's really cost efficient?
We're hearing this a lot now, this idea of agentic workloads, agentic outcomes, people talking about AI agents. I feel like AI agents are bringing us closer than ever to tech for outcomes in business. I know, James, you've got a point of view on this, and you've been experimenting with we've developed lots of different agents and quite a unique model. How's it showing up in our business?
Jono, in our Customer Insights platform, I think Naran mentioned this earlier, we're using about 20 different agents. And let's give you an example. We have hundreds of data sources across our business that we ingest into our data lake. One of those data sources is Net Promoter Score. So every time we complete a customer transaction, we send them a survey for them to give us their feedback and give us a score out of 0 to 10. Now, so we have a database, an NPS database with all of our relationship and transactional metrics. Now, there isn't an agent out there that understands Net Promoter Score. So when we say, how is it calculated, or when we ask questions about our NPS, agents don't know what that is. So we've had to pick an agent and then tune the agent and leverage context windows. So every time we ask the agent an NPS question, we're training the agent on what NPS is. So when we said earlier we've got 20 different agents, that's the process that we've gone through for each of these data sources to train the agents on our data, so we get really high quality responses. Now, on top of that, we have a scheduler agent. What that does is it unpacks the intent of the question, and then it farms that question off to the specialist agents to retrieve a result based on what they know. It's sort of the architecture that we've built. That platform we've built is called Customer Insights. So we can now add hundreds and hundreds of data sources, hundreds and hundreds of agents, and we get high quality responses back based on the data source, the agent, and the scheduler that sits on top of that. So that's kind of an insight into what we've done.
Now, there's a nice tangent. I'm going to ask you a question, Rachel. I asked the same question of Stephen Worrell when he was on the podcast a few weeks ago. It's a question of general intelligence.
Yes.
And when will we arrive there? Should we arrive there? Feels like you ask different people. Is it today? Is it 2 years from now? And how will that disrupt businesses? Have you got a view on general intelligence?
What did Stephen say?
He wouldn't give me an answer. Now, what I threw to him, because clearly there's a contract, isn't there, right, between OpenAI and Microsoft that says that should general intelligence be achieved, and there's a definition of that in that contract that no one's allowed to see, and I asked Stephen for it, and he clearly didn't give me the answer. Possibly doesn't know, I don't know, but I didn't get
I'm going to be the same as Stephen here, I think.
Right, but like how interesting that we're going to arrive at that point, and that's going to change everything.
It is. Look, it's I think we're learning, right? And I think It just blows me away how far things have come just in the 2.5 years. It's hard to know. I know that we're probably in sort of that middle innings, right? Like I don't think we're at the starting point anymore. I think we're in this middle part of what this technology can bring. The amount of models that are now available.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have been a big proponent of the AI Foundry, and
Yes.
we have a huge while we have a relationship with OpenAI, we have a relationship with all of those large language models through the AI Foundry, including DeepSeek. I think 2 days after DeepSeek became available, we made it through. So
saw that Mark Russinovic had a post up there straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Microsoft will continue to partner with the industry leading experts, and I think your point on general intelligence is one that we're all sort of thinking, and there's very smart people out there that probably know the accurate answer on that one, but one that I think that we're all continuing to learn about.
Look, my hope with this stuff, if I can be so bold, is that I love that we have our projects. Our projects makes us more scalable, and they make us more efficient, and they improve customer service, and that has been our primary focus with security and customer insights and affording our account managers the intelligence. And I look forward to being able to drive into work and like I'm calling a colleague, I'm going to call Teams, I'm going to get real-time information on the way to a meeting, and I'm so looking forward to that. And equally, hopefully, one day I can see us industrialising these things, and maybe, James, they can be a differentiated position in winning customers. That's certainly a personal interest of mine. Maybe we'll arrive there as well. I think
the work that you've done is amazing. Just hearing the story about how you've created the customer intelligence and how you have agents now supporting a variety of different business processes, and how your team is thinking about how they're going to change their way of working. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this to help unlock humans in our business.
Yeah.
And as long as it's accruing to something bigger than what we do today, I think that's exactly the place we need to be in.
Look, it's created a buzz in our business. There's no doubt about it. The people that have worked with James over the last 12 months have enjoyed doing it. It's been like a pet project. They work out of hours in their own time. They're super passionate about it. I'm getting pinged on Teams all the time. Look, Naran, I've built this, I've built that. Yeah. They love it. They're proud of what they're doing. It's exciting. They never know what's going to happen either. Like some of these models, you start playing around with them, to your point, Jono, on lived experience. It's only through using them that you get a sense of, right, this model lends itself to this agent, to this data source, etc. It's hugely exciting, right? There's no way that we could have predicted where that project was going to land at the beginning in terms of how it ended up. It was an evolutionary process that changed on a dime. One day there's a new model, and next thing you're changing your approach, and you had to be fluid and agile and dynamic, and that's part of the excitement.
Yeah, right? I think that's absolutely right. And, in terms of adopting new technology, I think we started the conversation with going back to, I'd say Macquarie as a business adopting what was a new approach to serving their customers through hyperscale cloud in partnership with Microsoft. Fast forward to today, now we're thinking about a new wave of new technology hitting the industry based around AI and agentic workloads. As leaders of organizations through these kinds of changes, you've done it before, we're about to do it again. If you could give our listeners or other business leaders out there a piece of advice to get this right, how might they best go about bringing their organization on the journey of adoption of this new tech, what would it be? And maybe I'll start with you, Rachel.
First of all, you've got to go work with Macquarie. I say that
the check's in the mail.
Yeah, that's okay. No. No, I say that because it's actually more about learning from others.
Okay.
Why would you work with a partner who's not embarking on this themselves and taking it seriously? Because everything I think we've shared here is we are learning a lot, we're adapting a lot. Our point of view may change over a period of different time. And you want a partner who not just works with you on the data, the security, but the change. And I think overall, if I had advice to customers out there that we see every single day in the Australian market, is to align yourself with a partner who gets this, that's actually doing the work themselves, because they're going to appreciate it so much more, and share a lot of that knowledge back into your organization. So that would be, it's probably best for me to say that than maybe James, but I think it's really, really important that you partner with people who get this.
Great advice. And James, now you're going second, so you've had a bit of time to think. No pressure.
Yeah, and that's a better time. I think that's right. I think if I think of mid-market businesses again, and I think of boardrooms and CXO meetings, I think that for me the question would be is whenever they're embarking on a project or evaluating a business problem, I'd be asking the question, how could we use AI here? And I think every current and future project workstream should have an AI workstream. And I think businesses who aren't thinking like that will be left behind. And that would be my advice for businesses to think through. And I think quickly, my pet project at the moment has turned into, I think, our understanding of how important data is and solving the data challenges, both in terms of governance, security, risk, centralization, clarity around what's good and bad data. And I think that would be my advice. How can AI solve this problem? Where is the AI work stream in this project? That would be my advice.
Great advice. Absolute gold for everybody listening. James and Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Cloud Reset. Thank you so much for your time.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you both for having us here. It's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, thank you, Anadine. We're going to have to show that picture, Rachel, the picture you and I took 6 years ago when we launched the practice. Ping the picture. There we go. That's how it all started.
Post-production, mate.
Thank you very much, James, as well.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
So, look, what a great conversation with James and Rachel, both of which look hugely important to me personally. Rachel was there right from the beginning some 6 years ago. Clearly, James has been there for longer. We built the Azure practice in that time. Microsoft have been instrumental to that. And we've seen so much changes in Azure, in market and business adoption, etc. in that time. It was a huge wave the last 6 years. It's still continuing, thank God. But it's also changing as well. And we see the parallels here with the embracing of generative AI projects. And there was many great insights that came through that conversation.
Yeah, incredible. And I think our two guests have left us with some pretty hard-hitting, practical takeaways for our listeners.
Yeah.
And that really stood out to me. You can't do an AI project without a data project, thinking about your data. And perhaps the easy way is to look at low-code, no-code options and partnering with people who have done it before or who are using the technology themselves.
Yes.
Right. So important for Australian business, especially in the mid-market, right? I know James said, CIOs aren't getting in magazines for doing data projects.
Right.
We need to rethink the way we approach what good looks like when it comes to data if we want to be successful with adoption of AI.
That's right. And look, and why can't we talk about the fact that it's cool as well?
It is cool.
It is cool, right? I mean, the mad scientists in our own business, and it's probably wrong of me to reflect on James as being a mad scientist, but look, what I mean to say on that, he was keenly interested in the project himself, but so were all the people that worked on it. And Rachel had a comment on that, whereby incoming people are suggesting or they're requesting, is AI adoption a thing within your business? And why can't it be like that?
Yeah, and thinking about the future where, the modern worker is going to be leveraging AI agents to help them be, faster, better,
leaner, better, cooler,
more powerful.
That's right.
More legendary.
That's right. Yes.
I can't wait. I think it's great.
I think it's here. It's on our doorstep. So yeah, amazing conversation. Grateful to both of them. Clearly, please subscribe. This has been obviously another Cloud Reset podcast. You can get your podcasts everywhere. So Spotify, YouTube, you name it. It's all there. Subscribe. We have many more guests coming up. We're grateful to have you. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks for joining in. Cloud Reset. Let's go.
Let's go.